Good morning, this is your Stat Sensei, Mr. Spensei, and this is another chi-square for our pre-quiz. This one is fake news. With concerns about misinformation rising, a journalism class investigates whether a person's primary social media platform influences how they consume news. Traditionalists believe that TV and newspapers remain the best sources, while younger audience often rely on social media posts. To explore this, the students survey a random sample of 600 people. All right, so we have a sample size of 600, and that shows here, and it also shows here. Recording their primary social media platform, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and their preferred news source from the tens of millions that use social media. So we surveyed 600 from tens of millions that use social media. That sounds like a population to me. The results are shown on the table below. Okay, and we see TV news, online, social media, we see Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, etc. At point oh 0.03, is there a relationship between social media platform and news source preference? As soon as they say relationship, I'm thinking this is a chi-square test of independence. And in fact, I have one sample and two variables. So I'm going to go ahead and take a moment and go second matrix, edit over to edit, and I'm going to enter this data into the calculator. Well, I have and you have to pay attention to this, do not count the totals. So when I look at the non-totals, I have a 3 by 3 matrix. So 3 enter, and we have 70 enter, 40 enter, 30 enter, 80 enter, 50 enter, 60 enter, 100, 90, and then 80. All right, so I have all that information in there. But now that I have it in there, I might as well run the test and go ahead and calculate my expected values because I'm going to need those anyway. So blue mode, and then stat test, chi-squared test, and we can ignore all of this. Takes us there for us. And we end up with a chi-squared value of 8.908 and a p-value of 0.063 and degrees of freedom. We'll talk about the degrees of freedom in a moment, but for the time being, let's go ahead and take a look at this and record some of our information. Well, we know our formula is observed minus expected squared over expected, so we have that. And since we already have our p-value, we might as well draw our graph. We know it goes all the way off to positive infinity. Our p-value is this shaded area is 0.0634, and our chi-squared value is 8.9081. All right, we still don't have those expected values. Although this is nice information, we need those expected values. And to do that, we press blue matrix, arrow over to edit, and then we drop down to letter B and press enter. And there we have them. 58.33, 42, 39.667, 79, 57, 53.8, 112.5, 81, and 76.5. And it's good to know that all of those are greater than or equal to 5 because that's going to be one of our conditions when we get back to it. So at this point, we have enough information to go ahead and um, plug in because we have our observed of 70, our expected value over our expected value. And we had, and that was our first one that came from right here. And then our second one, our last one, I should say, we record is the 80 and the 76.5, which is right there. And we already said we ended up with a chi-squared value of 89.081. So the degrees of freedom. Degrees of freedom for chi-squared independence is row minus 1 times columns minus 1. Well, how many rows? 1, 2, 3. So 3 minus 1. How many columns? 1, 2, 3. So 3 minus 1. Well, 3 minus 1 happens to be 2. So we end up with 2 times 2, which is equal to 4. So our degrees of freedom are 4. As we've already said, this is a chi-square test of independence. All right. So the next thing we need to do is write our null and alternative hypothesis. Well, social media platform and news source, these are my two variables, are independent and are not associated. Okay. This will always be this way, are independent and are not associated. The alternative is our two variables, social media platform and news source, are not independent and they are associated. All right, conditions. What are our conditions? Well, the first one, random sample of 600, and that was given to us. The next one, we need to make sure our sample is not too big. When we go 600 times 10 equals 6,000, well, that's certainly less than the 10 million. So our sample size is less than 10% of the population, so we are good there. As I mentioned earlier, we had to make sure our sample size was large enough. And to be that, the expected values all had to be greater than 5. And when we went up there and we go look, it looks like the smallest expected value is 39.67. So definitely all of them are greater than 5. All right, the next thing we need to do is write our findings out. What did we find? Well, we found that our chi-squared, the probability of getting chi-squared of 8.9081, that gives us our probability statement. And by the way, this will always be the chi-squared, it'll always be greater than equals 0.0634. 0.0634 is greater than our alpha, so we're going to fail to reject. All right? And as always, this sets up our first two sentences. We just convert this to words because our p-value of 0.0634 is greater than our alpha of 0.03, and we fail to reject a null. Well, that's exactly what I wrote. Our p-value is 0.0634, which is greater than our alpha of 0.03. We fail to reject the null. And the key word here is not. There is not sufficient evidence to suggest that, and this is just a restatement of our alternative hypothesis. Social media platform and news source are not independent and are associated. Well, if I look back up at my alternative, social media platform and news source are not independent and are associated, that happens to be my HA. It always will be that way, so please don't forget that. Real important to have good parameters and also to have good null and alternative hypothesis. All right, I appreciate you watching. Look forward to seeing you on the next one. Thank you.